on the eve of studying. Dear Daddy Longlegs, you should see the way this college is studying. We've forgotten we ever had a vacation. 57 irregular verbs have I introduced to my brain in the past 4 days. I'm only hoping they'll stay till after examinations. Some of the girls sell their textbooks when they're through with them, but I intend to keep mine. Then, after I've graduated, I shall have my whole education in a row in the bookcase, and when I need to use any detail, I can turn to it without the slightest hesitation. So much easier and more accurate than trying to keep it in your head. Julia Pendleton dropped in this evening to pay a social call and stayed a solid hour. She got started on the subject of family, and I couldn't switch her off. She wanted to know what my mother's maiden name was. Did you ever hear such an impertinent question to ask of a person from a foundling asylum? I didn't have the courage to say I didn't know, so I just miserably plumped on the first name I could think of, and that was Montgomery. Then she wanted to know whether I belonged to the Massachusetts Montgomerys or the Virginia Montgomerys. Her mother was a Rutherford. The family came over in the Ark, and were connected by marriage with Henry VIII. I meant to write you a nice, cheerful, entertaining letter tonight, but I'm too sleepy, and scared. The freshman's lot is not a happy one. Yours, about to be examined. Judy Abbott. Sunday. Dearest Daddy Longlegs, I have some awful news to tell you, but I won't begin with it. I'll try to get you in a good humor first. Jerusha Abbott has commenced to be an author. A poem entitled From My Tower appears in the February Monthly, on the first page. Which is a very great honor for a freshman. My English instructor stopped me on the way out from chapel last night and said it was a charming piece of work. Except for the 6th line, which had too many feet. I will send you a copy in case you care to read it. Let me see if I can't think of something else pleasant. Oh, yes. I'm learning to skate, and can glide about quite respectably all by myself. Also, I've learned how to slide down a rope from the roof of the gymnasium, and I can vault a bar 3 feet and 6 inches high. I hope shortly to pull up to 4 feet. We had a very inspiring sermon this morning, preached by the Bishop of Alabama. His text was, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." It was about the necessity of overlooking mistakes in others, and not discouraging people by harsh judgments. I wish you might have heard it. This is the sunniest, most blinding winter afternoon, with icicles dripping from the fir trees. And all the world bending under a weight of snow, except me, and I'm bending under a weight of sorrow. Now for the news. Courage, Judy, you must tell. Are you surely in a good humor? I flunked mathematics and Latin prose. I am being tutored in them, and will take another examination next month. I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but otherwise I don't care a bit, because I've learned such a lot of things not mentioned in the catalogue. I've read 17 novels and bushels of poetry, really necessary novels like Vanity Fair, and Richard Feverel, and Alice in Wonderland. Also Emerson's Essays, and Lockhart's Life of Scott, and the first volume of Gibbon's Roman Empire. And half of Benvenuto Cellini's Life. Wasn't he entertaining? He used to saunter out and casually kill a man before breakfast. So you see, Daddy, I'm much more intelligent than if I'd just stuck to Latin. Will you forgive me this once if I promise never to flunk again? Yours in sackcloth. Judy. Dear Daddy Longlegs, this is an extra letter in the middle of the month because I'm sort of lonely tonight. It's awfully stormy, the snow is beating against my tower. All the lights are out on the campus, but I drank black coffee and I can't go to sleep. I had a supper party this evening consisting of Sally and Julia and Leonora Fenton, and sardines and toasted muffins and salad and fudge and coffee. Julia said she'd had a good time, but Sally stayed to help wash the dishes. I might very usefully put some time on Latin tonight, but there's no doubt about it, I'm a very languid Latin scholar. We've finished Livy and De Senectute, and are now engaged with De Amicitia, pronounced De Amicitia. Should you mind, just for a little while, pretending you are my grandmother? Sally has 1, and Julia and Leonora each 2, and they were all comparing them tonight. I can't think of anything I'd rather have, it's such a respectable relationship. So, if you really don't object. When I went into town yesterday, I saw the sweetest cap of Cluny lace trimmed with lavender ribbon. I am going to make you a present of it on your 83rd birthday. That's the clock in the chapel tower striking 12. I believe I am sleepy after all. Good night, Granny. I love you dearly. Judy. The Ides of March. Dear D.L.L. I am studying Latin prose composition. I have been studying it. I shall be studying it. I shall be about to have been studying it. My re-examination comes the 7th hour next Tuesday, and I am going to pass or bust. So you may expect to hear from me next, whole and happy and free from conditions, or in fragments. I will write a respectable letter when it's over. Tonight I have a pressing engagement with the ablative absolute. Yours, in evident haste. J.A. March 26th. Mr. D.L.L. Smith. Sir. You never answer any questions, you never show the slightest interest in anything I do. You are probably the horridest one of all those horrid trustees. And the reason you are educating me is not because you care a bit about me, but from a sense of duty. I don't know a single thing about you. I don't even know your name. It is very uninspiring writing to a thing. I haven't a doubt but that you throw my letters into the wastebasket without reading them. Hereafter I shall write only about work. My re-examinations in Latin and geometry came last week. I passed them both and am now free from conditions. Yours truly. Jerusha Abbott. Dear Daddy Longlegs. I am a beast. Please forget about that dreadful letter I sent you last week. I was feeling terribly lonely and miserable and sore-throaty the night I wrote. I didn't know it, but I was just coming down with tonsillitis and grip and lots of things mixed. I'm in the infirmary now, and have been here for 6 days. This is the first time they would let me sit up and have a pen and paper. The head nurse is very bossy. But I've been thinking about it all the time, and I shan't get well until you forgive me. Here is a picture of the way I look, with a bandage tied around my head and rabbit's ears. Doesn't that arouse your sympathy? I am having sublingual gland swelling. And I've been studying physiology all the year without ever hearing of sublingual glands. How futile a thing is education. I can't write any more, I get sort of shaky when I sit up too long. Please forgive me for being impertinent and ungrateful. I was badly brought up. Yours with love. Judy Abbott. The Infirmary. April 4th. Dearest Daddy Longlegs. Yesterday evening, just toward dark, when I was sitting up in bed looking out at the rain and feeling awfully bored with life in a great institution, the nurse appeared with a long white box addressed to me, filled with the loveliest pink rosebuds. And much nicer still, it contained a card with a very polite message written in a funny little uphill backhand, but one which shows a great deal of character. Thank you, Daddy, 1,000 times. Your flowers make the first real, true present I ever received in my life. If you want to know what a baby I am, I lay down and cried because I was so happy. Now that I am sure you read my letters, I'll make them much more interesting, so they'll be worth keeping in a safe with red tape around them. Only please take out that dreadful one and burn it up. I'd hate to think that you ever read it over. Thank you for making a very sick, cross, miserable freshman cheerful. Probably you have lots of loving family and friends, and you don't know what it feels like to be alone. But I do. Goodbye, I'll promise never to be horrid again, because now I know you're a real person. Also I'll promise never to bother you with any more questions. Do you still hate girls? Yours forever. Judy. 8th hour, Monday. Dear Daddy Longlegs. I hope you aren't the trustee who sat on the toad. It went off, I was told, with quite a pop, so probably he was a fatter trustee. Do you remember the little dugout places with gratings over them by the laundry windows in the John Grier home? Every spring, when the hoptoad season opened, we used to form a collection of toads and keep them in those window holes. And occasionally they would spill over into the laundry, causing a very pleasurable commotion on wash days. We were severely punished for our activities in this direction, but in spite of all discouragement, the toads would collect. And one day, well, I won't bore you with particulars, but somehow, one of the fattest, biggest, juiciest toads got into one of those big leather armchairs in the trustees' room. And that afternoon, at the trustees' meeting. But I dare say you were there and recall the rest? Looking back dispassionately, after a period of time, I will say that punishment was merited, and, if I remember rightly, adequate. I don't know why I am in such a reminiscent mood, except that spring and the reappearance of toads always awaken the old acquisitive instinct. The only thing that keeps me from starting a collection is the fact that no rule exists against it. After chapel, Thursday. What do you think is my favorite book? Just now, I change every 3 days. Wuthering Heights. Emily Bronte was quite young when she wrote it, and had never been outside of Haworth churchyard. She had never known any men in her life. How could she imagine a man like Heathcliff? I couldn't do it, and I'm quite young and have never been outside the John Grier Asylum. I've had every chance in the world. Sometimes a dreadful fear comes over me that I'm not a genius. Will you be awfully disappointed, Daddy, if I don't turn out to be a great author? In the spring, when everything is so beautiful and green and budding, I feel like turning my back on lessons and running away to play with the weather. There are such lots of adventures out in the fields. It's much more entertaining to live books than to write them. Ow! That was a shriek which brought Sally and Julia and, for a disgusted moment, the senior from across the hall. It was caused by a centipede like this, only worse. Just as I had finished the last sentence and was thinking what to say next, plump, it fell off the ceiling and landed at my side. I tipped 2 cups off the tea table and trying to get away. Sally whacked it with the back of my hairbrush, which I shall never be able to use again. And killed the front end, but the rear 50 feet ran under the bureau and escaped. This dormitory, owing to its age and ivy-covered walls, is full of centipedes. They are dreadful creatures. I'd rather find a tiger under the bed. Friday, 9:30 p.m. Such a lot of troubles. I didn't hear the rising bell this morning, then I broke my shoelace while I was hurrying to dress, and dropped my collar button down my neck. I was late for breakfast and also for first-hour recitation. I forgot to take any blotting paper, and my fountain pen leaked. In trigonometry, the professor and I had a disagreement touching a little matter of logarithms. On looking it up, I find that she was right. We had mutton stew and pie plant for lunch. I hate them both. They taste like the asylum. Nothing but bills in my mail, though I must say that I never do get anything else. My family are not the kind that write. In English class this afternoon, we had an unexpected written lesson. This was it. I asked no other thing. No other was denied. I offered being for it. The mighty merchant smiled. Brazil? He twirled a button. Without a glance my way. But, madam, is there nothing else that we can show today? That is a poem. I don't know who wrote it or what it means. It was simply printed out on the blackboard when we arrived, and we were ordered to comment upon it. The rest of the class was in the same predicament. And there we sat for 3/4 of an hour with blank paper and equally blank minds. Getting an education is an awfully wearing process. But this didn't end the day. There's worse to come. It rained, so we couldn't play golf, but had to go to the gymnasium instead. The girl next to me banged my elbow with an Indian club. I got home to find that the box with my new blue spring dress had come, and the skirt was so tight that I couldn't sit down. Friday is sweeping day, and the maid had mixed all the papers on my desk. We had tombstone for dessert, milk and gelatin flavored with vanilla. We were kept in chapel 20 minutes later than usual to listen to a speech about womanly women. And then, just as I was settling down with a sigh of well-earned relief to The Portrait of a Lady. A girl named Ackerley, a dough-faced, deadly, unintermittently stupid girl, who sits next to me in Latin because her name begins with A. I wish Mrs. Lippett had named me Zabriskie. Came to ask if Monday's lesson commenced at paragraph 69 or 70, and stayed 1 hour. She has just gone. Did you ever hear of such a discouraging series of events? It isn't the big troubles in life that require character. Anybody can rise to a crisis and face a crushing tragedy with courage. But to meet the petty hazards of the day with a laugh, I really think that requires spirit. It's the kind of character that I am going to develop. I am going to pretend that all life is just a game which I must play as skillfully and fairly as I can. If I lose, I am going to shrug my shoulders and laugh, also if I win. Anyway, I am going to be a sport. You will never hear me complain again, Daddy dear, because Julia wears silk stockings and centipedes drop off the wall. Yours ever, Judy. Answer soon.